I'm sorry, guys. I think we had a small glitch, but I'm trying to get my mom back.
Yeah.
There we go. So we're back. Sorry about that. So what you were saying that we were talking about your college days and how you enjoyed your experience in Stella, and I'm actually kind of envious because uh, studying art is actually something that is very which I also considered growing up because I saw you obviously painting all the time, but then I think for me. I kind of wanted a little more structure in my education, so I kind of went the architecture route. And I think obviously till the 11th standard, I wanted to do medicine, and then suddenly I switched gears, and I was like, no, I think I want to do something
Yeah.
creative. So
Yeah.
subconsciously, I think art has always influenced me because I grew up painting and drawing my whole life. So now I'm here and and we're having this conversation. But next thing, I just wanted to know, as an artist, what are your guiding principles and how do you actually see your evolution as an artist from your younger days to now? Like, you see a drastic change and a jump, or has it been a gradual growth?
I would say it was extremely gradual because I started my art practice only after marriage and after you were born. And I think you would have been only around 3 to 4 years old when I finished my MPhil in order to further my profession. By the way, I did join as an art educator in JBS SIT College, and I'd been there for about 32 to 33 years. So that was the best experience of my life because I learned along with teaching my students. I learned quite a bit of how life should be, how I should be as an artist, how disciplined I should get to be in an art practice. Because when I was teaching my students, I had to definitely be more disciplined. So, in order to further my education, I did further my career. I did my MPhil 92, and then I rejoined. I decided that when I was doing my thesis on Cholamandala Artist Village for my MPhil, I interacted with all the artists there, and that was my second influence after my education. To have been exposed to so much of sculptures and paintings and their lifestyle, etc., which really urged me on to start a practice because ideally I felt that in order to teach I need to practice, because if I did not practice, how am I going to tell my students that this is the way you're supposed to do things and how you're going to further yourself? So this, I decided to get back to it because I did have that urge, and therefore Mr. A.V. Lango was a friend of the family, and when he called me along to say, okay, come on, I can help you out to start off, that's when structured I sat, after college I really sat. It was such fun because we could do a variety of things, and there was no hurry. So that's how I started, and gradually when we started having a bunch of group shows, it kind of egged me on to start a solo, and that's when I think the confidence level began. So that's how it started. My artistic career started in that manner. And mind you, I had a full-time job and I was a full-time mom too.
Yeah, I wanted to
Uh,
ask you like how you manage to balance, family life and working, having a full-time job and then, like coming back and practicing your art. How did you manage that balance?
See, a good part of my day was spent in college because that was a responsibility which I had, and then I was a mom too because that never goes. Then when it comes to an art practice, it is a what do you call it? It gives you a lot of joy to know that you can do something so creative on the side, which is all your own thoughts which are put onto the canvas, and that really egged me on, and it was not easy, but I remember one encounter when I met Mrs. Anjali Menon, who was, I just encountered her somewhere and I asked her how she grew with a family. And she told me there is no excuse for being an artist. And I think I've repeated that many a time to many of the young students who were under me, because there is actually no excuse for doing what you want. And that
Yeah.
really made me stay up the nights and do whatever I could whenever I could. And especially when there is a show coming up, it kind of really charges you. I get recharged and we start working in a more structured manner because there is a
Yeah.
deadline and a timeline to follow.
Yeah, many a times when we all go to sleep, mom goes up to her studio and the lights are on till like 3 a.m. and she's just like lost in her world. So I think it's more like the passion that you have for the craft, that you, for your practice, that kind of takes over and you just kept going. So,
Yeah.
so I want to talk a little bit about your works because uh, very unique and different to a majority of the contemporary artists of today's day and age. You're definitely not a person who is color averse because all of your paintings are so vibrant and so colorful. I've heard so many people walk up to you when they're viewing their painting and say your paintings make them feel happy and joyful. So it must be a very wonderful feeling to invoke this from the people who are viewing your paintings. So, what is your thought process behind your forms and the colors that you use?
Okay, as we all know, color plays a significant role not only in this field but in almost every field. And when I started using color, it was actually not that I deliberately used, but it came naturally to me. Like all the colors which I use, I was highly influenced by, as I mentioned earlier, when we used to travel in Kerala. The green you see on my works are also based on what I saw around. And as you know, Kerala is so rich in that color. So I use a lot of colors. My primary colors are used without any, what do you call it, mixing, because I would love to just juxtapose the colors with each other. I think also my subject matter became easy for me. It was easy for me to use color because of the subject matter, because my focus was on the figurative forms and everything else played around it. So color, if you say that my colors are very bright and they're very what do you call them? I mean, they're very um, rich. It's also because of the fact that I felt that these colors are what work for me, and when I work, I never look at how another person could view it, but how I would view it, and that was the first step towards being sure about your work. Later on, I came to know that people did love the colors, and that was an added point, because added asset, because okay, now I know that these colors do work. It comes later. For any artist, that is how it is. We never look at at least for me, I never looked at whether this work would sell. It was always like whether the work would be, I would be happy with this work. And that's how I've always worked. And I think that really worked for me. Um,
Right. So, one thing is you see in your paintings is the forms that you use. So, the subject matter, I believe, is always been a man and a woman, and you kind of use your colors to get that emotion in your paintings. So, what was it that what guides the forms that you create? Like what is it? What is the story behind your paintings?
See, most of my forms are based, I mean, almost every painting of mine will have these two forms, because I strongly believe in the um, creation of man and woman. And that's what I've been working on for a number of years. Whatever a paint, even if it's an abstract form, at least the faces of a man and woman, because I feel they're inherent part of the universe and everything else is related to them. Like, no, the universe doesn't exist without the human form, and without the portrayal of both the male and the female form, I don't think it exists. So I always try to create the woman as always being in the forefront of the man, and the man is always at the back, or even when they're juxtaposed with each other. And earlier in my initial days, I never used to demarcate the difference between a man and a woman because I always felt they had to be equal. Over a couple of years, I started having the woman to be more significant because I started looking. I mean, it happens automatically when you start changing it slowly. Then I started bringing elements as animals and birds into it. So each time, each canvas is different. And each canvas also denotes the fact that there is a lot of connection between a man and a woman. This could be anybody. It needn't necessarily be a husband and wife, or it could be anybody. It could be anything, but it is always there. I mean, the world exists because of, and the world, the number of the population, the world, everything exists because of the existence of a man and a woman. So that's how I perceive it. And coming from a matriarchal lineage, I also felt the woman had to be always equal, or maybe a little more, what do you call it, decisive in a family or decisive in a relationship.
Okay. So these are sculptures that you have done for a particular project, or what can you say about these?
Oh, these were actually a new, which was more recent, within 2017 and 18. Throughout these 2 years, I was given a wonderful opportunity of working with the ICF Integral Coach Factory, wherein I was also given the privilege of conducting a number of camps with different artists. What you see today is in front of you are two images of sculptures which we did from scrap. Now, ICF was run that time by it was the GM of that time was Mr. Sudhanshu Mani, who had a vision, and he always wanted to create a space for art and artists. And he was very, very clear of having only Tamil Nadu or Chennai artists to be part of it. So I was fortunate enough to be given that opportunity to conduct these camps. And what you see before me is conducted completely with, is done completely with trained scrap. It is a beautiful space where we invited a lot of artists. I formulated those camps and invited artists. And over each month, each artist was given a chance, and he would set a date and we would have to work on it. And they left the complete creativity section. He would only say that don't make it this large or don't make it this small or whatever. So that really was, I think, one of the the two best years because we did up to 9 camps. Excuse me. We did up to 9 camps, and not only did we do sculpture, we did paintings also. If any of you do get a chance, please go to that space and see the wonderful sculptures which we have done, because there were more than 100 and odd works of art which we have done, both as in the form of paintings as well as sculpture. So that, I think, was a defining factor, because it just let our creativity flow with different forms of material. Nowhere can an artist get so many materials given to us and told us, okay, go create. Because that particular railway yard where they used to throw away their waste, what was not required for manufacturing and what was extra, it was like an ocean it was delightful, because we used to just walk there's acres of land and pick up what we wanted, select it, there's to bring it across and help us create this. So I think that that's what you see in front of you.
Yeah, lovely it looks. I mean, I've actually experienced all of the sculptures because there was a group of artists who portrayed their works there, right, over several months, and everybody seemed very inspired by what was already there and the story of ICF. And I think that's what, as an artist, you kind of derive your inspiration from everywhere. But I wanted to ask you, where do you get your inspiration from for your art?
As I said earlier, it was also, very internal. Whatever we get is very internal. A lot of influences we see around us. And I think, as I mentioned you earlier, it's my upbringing, which helped. Now, if you ask any client, for example, ICF was a client, to your left, you see one. When I was, and every time we had a camp, we had to visit inside the factory, the ICF factory, and look around and get inspiration, because everything was tuned towards related to ICF or trains or anything, or the workers. So at that time, I saw a machine, a particular robotic machine, which was used to create a train. So that inspired me to do one on the bees and the actual workers, because soon any kind of factory is going to be manned by machine, and how the workers, the little creatures which are climbing up, are the workers. The bees are also getting extinct, and the man by himself, maybe not now, but in a few, maybe in another 2-3 decades, may not have that opportunity to work hands-on, and we will not get machinery which is created by man. So that kind of inspired this first work. The second work was done for the railway station, where we had to take a few works and keep it there for a week. And this is representing, a coolie who would drag our luggage, or drag a bunch of luggages onto the train. And always the mirrors which are represented there are actually ourselves, because we are so concerned about the machinery, the baggage which is going, because we think that he's going to take it away, and we forget that he is the one who is dragging it along. So I did that based on it, and that was also an interesting experience for all of us. We always were about 8 to 9 artists who worked on each project.
Okay. So,
So as I said, as you asked me, the surroundings and what inspires us is also what happens then, or what is there inherently in us. So one never, if a client is asking us to do a particular form or a particular work based on an idea, then that definitely is given a lot of thought, and then we
right.
work on it.
Yeah. Very similar to how it is in architecture as well. We have our own inspiration and we have our own ideas, but then the client brief is also something that we have to hit. So I think that's a very similar concept. And I think we can circle in a little bit on some of the things that you've collated to just explain a little bit about color. Yeah.
Yes. We can do it, because we can move on with our talk based on how color represents an important role, and how as you see, structured before you is what is supposed to be the primary, the secondary, the tertiary colors, which create the color wheel. We have the complementary, the double complementary, etc., which is all very, very important as far as design and art is concerned. But when I take up the first one, the red, which you see before you, is red. It represents certain passion and certain emotions, like I've written here. Now I've taken up different images which represent, the one below is during the pre-Raphaelite ages, just before modern art came into existence, in the French painting. Oath of Horati, which is supposed to represent passion. And red was always denoted as something which is a color which jumps at you, a warm color which jumps at you. And the cave paintings, Giorgio O'Keeffe and Mr. Achyutan Kudulur, who is a contemporary artist, use red beautifully onto their works. And to the right, below, to my side, onto the right side, is my work, which is represented the both Prakriti and Purusha in a form of a painting, which is also an quasi-religious representation. But you see my man and a woman there as well. So red is one of the colors which is being used a lot right from the Renaissance period up to date by many artists. And it really creates an impact, because it is always invariably used with one other color or two other colors, but it is there because you can make out by yourself how red has been utilized by the artists from the cave paintings till date. We come to the next color is the blue color. The blue is supposed to be, of course,
The yellow.
The yellow. Okay, yeah. Yellow is a very Indian color, and this particular yellow, as you know, that it was an organic magnesium pigment, as you know. Most of the colors in the past were used as an organic, were organic and were utilized in the paintings. Down below, you can see an Indian miniature painting where yellow was given. The Indian yellow is supposed to have a very significant presence in most of Indian art. And above that, you can see Van Gogh's painting of the sunflowers, a beautiful representation of his sunflowers, which is very, very famous all over the universally. And to your right, you can see two of my artworks where I've used yellow. Yellow is one of the colors which I use in my palette quite a bit, and it creates a sense of happiness. So automatically, all these, when yellow comes forth, it gives you a vision of sunlight, happiness, brightness, etc., and optimism and joy. So we come to the next color, blue. Blue is, of course, used again by many artists. I've used it a number of times because my blues are something which my hand automatically goes to. Sometimes it becomes so repetitive that I have to forcefully change my color palette because to make it minimal. The blue is considered to be a cool color because it represents the ocean and the sky, and it's supposed to give hope and supposed to be serenity. It is serenity, calmness. Sometimes it is also depression, as you can see in Van Gogh's the blue period. He did two significant early phases of his career, was the blue and the pink period, where both represented people from the underprivileged, and how it can, with blues, grays and purples, how you can create, which is all related to each other. You can create a sense of desolate, hopeless life also. So that is how he has represented it. And you
But
can see
I want to
Vermeer.
talk a little bit about this painting of yours because it's actually very different to majority of your painting. It's actually one of my favorites. It's monochromatic, which I am a big fan of, and you've used different blues in different ways. What was your thinking behind this blue painting of yours?
This particular work is also very dear to me, and sometimes what happens is, I think one of the works which another work which is monochromatic hangs in your house. It so happens that when you work really fast and you want to represent something, you just take some colors and use it. So take the color subconsciously. I wanted to do this in different shades of blue because uh, it comes, one or two artworks, one or two paintings of yours just comes automatically when you take up a palette and you know how to balance it beautifully. And that's when you get this work. And even my tree, which is shown very often, I represent nature, and especially it's a single tree or some kind of foliage, is also in different shades of blue. And it just worked. So I think at the end of the day, once you finish up artwork and you know that, okay, this is what you had in mind and this is what happens. Now when you ask me this question, I really don't know whether I can repeat this, but it just happened at that time. And
But that's a very interesting thing because you always tell me, because I see, like, I think this one actually sold. So if I come back to you and say, Ma, I want you to do that exact same painting, you always tell me I can't do it. I can't do it
I
because the
know,
painting
I
is
just
only one.
cannot. I know
So
it's not
it's sort
possible.
of, it's just
It's
in the
because
moment. It's what you're
in the moment,
feeling and the
because
color.
yeah, see, I'll tell you what happens is we do a lot of drawings, we do a lot of sketches. Even from that, when I try to transfer it onto a larger canvas, it is never the same because the thought process at one time changes with the thought process of the next. Our moods, our way of life, so many things happen in between that I sometimes look at a drawing and say, no, I don't like this. Why did I even do it? So the
Right.
drawing is a very integral part of any artist's growth, because I'm telling you this because I feel I'm still growing. I don't think I can ever say that I've reached a particular spot. And sometimes when people call me in a forum like this, I also wonder, am I that important that I should be called for,
Mm.
something like this? But I do enjoy interacting because I love to talk about it, probably because I've spent a number of years talking to my students who have been a great source of encouragement for me also subconsciously. So
Yeah.
that really has helped me, speak about it. And today I'm confident to speak about it and also say that I'm sure every single artist goes through the same gamut of emotions that I'm talking about, or thought process that I'm talking about. Each may be doing it in a different way, but we all know that we cannot repeat an exact work.
Yeah.
You ask me, it is going to do this, it's going to be extremely, what do you call it? It'll look very artificial at the end of it. It'll never be the
Look
same.
forced. Yeah. It won't be as organic as the first
Yeah,
time.
because you don't know whether you've used a brush and whether we've used a palette knife completely or whether we've used a roller. I mean, I don't remember at that time. And as I told you many a time, I look at her work and when it's hanging and say, how did I do this? I mean, I
Yeah,
did it. So it had to come from the subconscious.
right. So let's move on to the next one, green color.
Ah, one of my favorite colors. I've been often accused of using this green in a lot of my works with great abundance because I love this color for the pure fact it is extremely. I use green and yellow in combination, different greens and yellow in combination because, as I said, traveling around and I love nature. In fact, right now where I am, it's a place which is full of forests and we walk every day. My son and I walk every day, and I just drink it in. It's a lot of what I drink in, and they also say that's what my son says also, that green is a color which a human eye can absorb. The different hues and shades can absorb more than any other color. Well, I don't know about others, but for me, it does happen. So I've juxtaposed against two forms again, and I've used a different color, purple and blue, along with it, probably to balance. But you can see my blues there as it is. And
Yeah.
of course, Monet, he used to go to a particular spot and work tirelessly for days on end, and his water lilies are extremely famous for that. And they are it's a bridge with the water lilies over the lake, on a lake, and the green foliage in the background. So I just took it as a reference to show that green is being used from time immemorial.
Purple.
Yeah, the color purple is actually it denotes royalty, and Monet and Pablo Picasso have used it. Now the color purple is more you would say the time when modern art actually started. The Impressionists started working when they started fusing colors. Where you used to place colors next to each other, the eye kind of move when you move back. The colors kind of fuse, and therefore the eye registers a color which is combined together. So that is how purple was used. Whereas Picasso, in his cubistic stage, when Cubism was when he brought out the theory of Cubism itself, he has used different colors and juxtaposed against each other. I have used color purple also quite often, as you've seen before, and in both these works, if you use in one, specifically the one to your left, there is a lot of purple and shades of purple. Perhaps when you pick up a particular tube and you start your work, if I put yellow and purple together, I don't know whether it balances and when I do it. But when I actually finish the work, I realize, okay, this is what I like. So 100% of whatever I do is only because I like to do it. It's not because I would like a viewer to like it. It's because I wanted it. So that's how I think every artist looks at his work and works in that manner. And so purple is also nature in the form of flowers. And as you know, it's a royal color, but we can't use too much of it because uh, it may look too monotonous, because purple cannot be perceived by most people comfortably. As you know, in interiors also, it would be the same.
And orange is your next color.
Orange. Yeah, orange is, of course, a very, very inviting color. Again, it is warmth, excitement, amusement, and a lot of artists have used over the years. I've used it quite a bit, from reds to oranges and yellows, and I've combined it. The one with the lotus where I'm standing, it was for a show in Malaysia in 2009, 18 or 19. Yeah, in 18. Sorry, it was 19. And that's where you see, again, orange used quite a bit on the background, with reds and yellows, and almost all the colors of my palette has been used there. And these are the colors which I work on. Gauguin and Monet on your right is also there. And it is, and it gives a sense of brightness and warmth to a work of art. Okay, and I said, in Buddhism, it has been used and is connected to the pigments that are readily available to dye holy robes. And symbolically, it's connected to perfection and the highest state of illumination. And that's how you see it in most of Indian art, because Krishna and Radha were always decorated with in yellow orange. And that's a significant color in Indian art also.
Okay, so now we're going to shift a little bit into interiors. and talk a little bit about how color plays a huge role in the impact of interior spaces as well as exterior spaces in architecture.
So I would like to ask you a few questions on this, Varsha,
Yeah.
because I would like to know how color was utilized in a balanced manner where interiors are concerned, and does it really play? I mean, as we know, color does play an insignificant role. But for you, how would you rate the? How would you value the usage of colors in interiors, and how important is it to the client as well as you as a designer?
See, color is it's a very powerful interior design tool. It's something that it can conjure various emotions in a person, and when you're living in a space, you should the client basically should know what kind of an atmosphere they want to create inside the space that they're living in, whether it's a house or whether it's a retail space. They will have a certain idea, even if they're not sure about the kind of color or the palette that they want to go with. As architects and as designers, it's our job to kind of educate them as to what would work here, what colors go, because it does add to the value of the space by a great extent. If somebody comes to you and says, "See, Varsha, I only want like something very minimal Scandinavian," then you know immediately, okay, we're going to go white and we're going to do accents of and pops of color and warm tones here and there if they want. But at the same time, if it's something a little more playful, like if it's a school design or if it's something like a fun restaurant design, then you can be a little more experimental with your color. So color is a very important tool, and it's something that has to be given a lot of thought to. So you can choose to singularly and definitively create an experience with color by making it all color, or you can create accents and pockets of color within a space as well. So that's how I would approach color in interior spaces. And I've collated a few images to show like how color has been used in modern interior spaces as well as architecture. So I can take you through it really quickly. This is just a basic color wheel, just to show the kind of emotions that you touched upon it a little bit. What each color kind of, what resonates with each color. For example, here you see blue color and pink color. So basically, there is a wide variety of emotions also which is tagged to each color. Like if you want to go really dramatic, you can use a deep royal blue in a space, or if you want to go really like serene and calm, you can use like a baby blue in a space. And pink, actually pink is a very underestimated color. People usually like relate it to like a baby girl's room or like a kid's room, but that's not true anymore. I see a lot of young designers actually experimenting a lot with this color, and as you will see in this image, it's actually been used very tastefully with like the right accents sprinkled across the room. So yellow, obviously, as soon as you look at yellow, it's one of those colors which immediately you know it denotes joy and happiness and positivity. So here is a space with yellow in it, and just it's very bright and optimistic. And black denotes drama, modern sophistication. It can be used in a lot of industrial spaces. It can actually be used to punctuate an interior space to kind of create that drama that you're looking for. If your client is a little more experimental, this is a great color to use as a backdrop, and it's actually one of my personal favorites as well. Orange and red. Now, these are two controversial colors because people are not willing to actually go all out with orange. Although it is associated with happiness, joy, and warmth. It's a little risky for people who are a little more like risk averse, I would say. But used with the right combination of colors, it can be a beautiful thing. And red is something that you find in a lot of restaurants, in dining spaces, whether it's like a huge red piece of art, like how I have in my own home. It's something that's very striking, and they say that red is supposed to evoke hunger. I don't know if it's true, but it's been used universally. So this is a good color to use in restaurants and in dining spaces. Again, green is for growth, harmony, freshness. So it's a lovely color to use. You can use it like you can texture the color. Every color can be textured and used with the right balance of other complementary colors. You can use it as a nice, fresh wallpaper on one wall, and you can have like rich hues of greens and corals. It really depends on how much you're willing to go in an interior space. So brown, gray, whites, I've grouped this together because these are actually the safe colors and they actually create a good blank canvas to build on. So brown is it's a very solid color. It's something that people are very open to, and they think it's a very dependable color shade. And gray is obviously something that has been popular forever now. And it used in the right way, it can look really beautiful. And white is associated with, like pristine, calm, and it's a universal neutralizer, I would say. You can accent it with colors, you can bring in warmth with wood, you can bring in contrasting black accents. So there's a lot you can do with white. It's a good blank canvas to start with. Just a short slide on color and architecture. There's so much more to show, but we don't have the time to go through it. But I just put together a few images. As you will see, top left, the blue domes of Greece. So in Mykonos and in Santorini, you see these blue colors. And actually, all those years ago, people associated this blue with calmness and serenity, and they wanted to mimic the colors of the sea and the sky, which is so beautiful in those regions. So that's why they used the blue over there. And there's another small city called Chefchaouen in Morocco, which is called the Blue Gem of Morocco. And it's actually, there are many Jewish colonies there, and they associate blue with their religion, and they wanted to paint the entire city blue. So you'll see all the walls being blue over there. Then the pink city, Jaipur, obviously everybody's heard about it. The story goes that in the 1800s, the king wanted to impress Queen Victoria, the Maharaja wanted to impress the Queen Victoria. So he thought that pink was a very hospitable color and he thought that it was very welcoming. So he basically had the entire city painted in this color. Actually, it was a very cheap trick that he used because sandstone is the local material there and he couldn't afford to clad everything in sandstone. So he just ended up painting every facade, which is still to this date followed. A lot of the marketplaces also, you will see pink buildings. So the next color is red. So red is very prominent in China. Even if you go to other countries and you go to Chinatown, you will see that it is just splashed with red everywhere. Red is a very, very sacred color for the Chinese. They associate it with happiness, harmony, and wealth. So wherever they can, they use red. It's also there like on their clothes or, in their interior spaces. So red is a very, very prominent part of their landscape.
Can I ask you a few questions about how you have used colors for your exterior, your personal experience, and how you have designed some of your spaces using interior and exterior spaces? And how does it work for you? Is it the wish of the client, or is it because you wanted these colors to be used? And why would you have wanted it? So if you can go through some of your projects, that would be great.
Yeah, so it has to do with a little bit of both. And actually, I have been fortunate enough to work on a few projects which has allowed me to explore with color. When it's a residential project, a lot of the clients are a little more reserved and conservative in their color palette. They want to go with the neutrals and do like accents of colors here and there. But then I've done a few retail projects and a few commercial projects where the client just says, I want it to be bright and spunky. So then I have that ability to play around with color. So I will show you a few images of what I have designed. This is actually an office headquarter. And my whole thing was to do, there were 3 floors of the building, and each floor denoted I just color blocked it and said the ground floor was going to be yellow, the first floor was going to be blue, and the third floor was going to be green. And that's how I kind of created that. And each color had a separate department working out of it. So it just became the yellow floor, the blue floor, and the green floor. So this is one. This is a really fun project that I did for a middle school. So color is something that kids really resonate with, and especially primary colors. And I was very, very keen to kind of introduce that play factor, that fun factor in this library project. So I've created levels, and each level has, it's almost like a little amphitheater within the space. And the kids can like run on it, and they can associate, they kind of, young minds get energized with different colors and different color plays. So that was my thinking behind this library project. And this is another school project. Again, the brief was to create something unique, something colorful. So this I came up with these schematic drawings for these 2 elevations of a school. The top left one has like these color panels which are, scattered through the building. And the second one is actually like a different donut-shaped building with a central courtyard. So again, a very colorful project, very fun for me to do. And it was really nice to experiment with colors in these. The next one is an eco cafe. It's called the Sadayush Eco Cafe in Ananagar. This one was one where the client basically said, so you can see on the site there are 2 large trees, and it was half a ground plot, and my thing was to build this or to design an eco cafe almost like a tree house, because they also needed parking below. So as an eco cafe, you try to use local materials. So that kind of rendered to the color palette in itself. So you can see a lot of terracotta, earthy materials, browns, and a lot of cane. So that was the thinking behind this. Another elevation revamp. You can see the little picture there of how it kind of rendered itself in reality. But these were 3 schemes that I gave for another school elevation facade revamp. And they absolutely loved all, but I think finally the client went with the most colorful one, because she really wanted the kids to be engaged with the elevation. And these are just more neutral elevations of projects. The left one is actually a small nuclear family home, G+2 structure. And the one on the right is actually a weekend retreat, which was designed as a glass box. So over here, when you're talking about color, I designed it as a glass box because I wanted the nature to be the background of the building. I didn't want to distract from it. So that is the thinking behind this weekend retreat home. And this is another small, quick design project that I did for an expansion of a resort in ECR. Which is kind of based on the Thinnai, the Indian Thinnai, the Thinnai, the house Thinnais, and how everything is open and light, and everything is in white and accentuated with color. So these are this is just a quick talk on some of the projects that I have done over the past few years.
And I have a question where this is concerned. It is related both to art and to design. I have noticed that there are a few elements which you have used in some of your projects, which is like, for example, the Thinnai has been one of the Indian elements, and you've used it in a contemporary fashion. I would like to know how much of the young today who are asking you to design a space, are asking anybody to design a space, are bringing in any Indian element. Do they want it in the form of art or in the form of crafts, or they just buying works which is, or they just want it to be totally contemporary? That is my first question. 1 minute. I have another question which goes with it, because considering the number of artists and craftsmen are there in our country, why isn't it not encouraged by people who build homes or people who are doing up their spaces, in order to bring in an eclectic kind of a design which combines both content, because that's a lifestyle we all lead today with our education and
Yeah.
what we see around. But why not bring in more of an Indian element in some form or the other into their homes?
Yeah. So, see, I think for a while, we kind of got lost in architecture and interiors. Like, um, we were trying to create something that is not inherent to our Indian culture. We were trying to kind of imitate the West too much, and but that is shifting for sure. And I think that a lot of it has to do with a lack of education with our generation, and it just and the lack of exposure, right? Like I'm sure all of you know what is there, how to use it in spaces. So it is actually our job to guide the clients as to how you can use these Indian elements if they want to. There are some people who say, no, I just want it to be extremely modern. And in the day of Pinterest, they already have a board and when they come to you for a job. So, we have to be a little more diligent in advising and showing them options as to how you can bring these artisan crafts into the spaces, because it is beautiful. The stuff that you find in India is something that you can't find anywhere else. We should appreciate the local art and the local artisans. So it's up to us also to tell people, how you can use this. So it is a mixed bag, really, because I feel like it is shifting. The youngsters are getting a lot more aware of
Knowledgeable, is
things.
it?
Yeah, they're getting a little more aware. They are being more accepting, and they're seeing now how it can be used in a modern way. So I think we are getting there.
Yeah,
So
that's good. That's wonderful, because come from our handlooms to our crafts to our paintings and
yeah,
even the contemporary artists, like an art, we have an art practice. Our inspiration comes from what is around us. We are definitely not going to imitate somebody from the West and then try to
yes,
say that it is ours, because our upbringing has to reflect what we do. So, and
yeah,
whatever we create has to have some kind of a link. So I
yeah.
don't see many homes which are like that. Is it? And do you represent homes which are very typical of the characteristic of your client, or because it's a very personal, much more personal than what we do. Here we create for ourselves and then we let the world see it. But there you create for someone because
No.
they want it in a particular way. So how do you adjust the two? I mean, what you want for the client and what the client wants. How do you bring in or integrate that?
It's basically you have to find a balance. See, when you start out, you have to bend a little bit for the client, because it is how it is. Like you said, art is something you create, and then it's up to the world to perceive it however they see fit. But when it comes to architecture, it's a little bit different, because they're living in it. They're seeing it every day. They shouldn't be like, oh, I wish it was like that. So we try our best to strike a balance. Obviously we have our own aesthetic, that we follow, but the colors that they want and the elements that they want, we try to bring it in the best way possible. At least somebody who is very aware of design and who wants to make sure that the client is also happy would do that. They will listen to the client, they will listen to the brief and try to make them happy as well. Because
Yeah.
nowadays you just can't say this is how it is, and
See,
just
yeah, I know. I personally feel you're all young influencers, and you people are the ones who should bring and give some kind of a livelihood for all our craftsmen, and even for the existing contemporary artists, instead of just taking some prints out of internet and then putting it on the walls. Because a client, I've always noticed some of the clients have the largest of homes, but they're compromised where artwork is concerned, which
see,
is
that
very
is again correct,
disheartening.
because they don't know, or they don't see the value. They don't see how difficult it is for an artist to actually conceive that design and to make it come to life. So again, it's again a lack of knowledge, I feel. And I think, see, it's not, see, also Chennai is not a city where you can just walk into a gallery and just, on a weekend thing is not going to a gallery and looking at art. So that awareness has to happen with the youngsters. So that is something that has to change. And I think it is changing. People are getting more open to it. But I think we still have a ways to go when it comes to.
Yeah,
in
and I only hope that your generation of designers could do more for that, because the livelihood of many of them are at stake. The
yeah.
craftsmen, the
And
contemporary artists, the handloom weavers, everybody. But even for furnishing, if it would be great if you could take some of the, what we have around us, instead of searching and sourcing it from other countries, including your
yeah,
furniture and other things. I mean, otherwise, where we don't have even good carpenters today because they don't have work. So
yeah.
I just think
That's
I'm very passionate about this, so I'm talking about it, and I only hope that you all would encourage this to grow in a better way, and bring in more spaces which have all these if not all, at least some elements which kind of help the weavers, the painters, and the sculptors to grow.
okay.
So
So I think we're
uh,
running out of time. So
okay.
I'm going to sort of end or conclude with a really fun rapid fire round,
Oh
which
my
I know you
gosh.
don't know the questions. If there's
Okay.
anybody who's watching and wants to ask any questions to Tejo ma'am, or you know, you can type it out and I will read it for her as well. So the first one, it's a rapid fire, so you have to be quick to answer. Okay.
I hope I can. Okay.
What advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self, I mean, I wouldn't want to change anything, because I don't think I would have had a better life than having an encouraging family who knew that I had to run off and paint at all times. I don't think I would like to change that ever. And I don't think I would have been in a hurry to become an artist either, because I think everything has its own space and own pace. So I don't think I would have changed anything regarding that. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay. What is one of the things that you would put on your bucket list?
More travel on my bucket list. See more of artworks around the world and in our country as well. I've traveled a bit, but not enough for me to understand what is really happening around the world. Because that would be definitely on my bucket list. Because time is running out. I'm already in a stage of life, and I hope that within the rest of my life, I could be able to paint as well as travel more.
Okay. Uh, if what have you done that you are the most proud of?
Oh, yes. I've done my children. I've given my children to this world, which I'm most proud of. Other than that, of course, my teaching practice is something which I'm really proud of, because I'm happy because I get a good response from a bunch of very, very bright students. And I think I'm proud of everything in my life. So you won't get any specific answers from me, Varsha, because it has to be elaborated as usual.
As usual. What is the best thing about being an artist, and what is the worst thing?
The best thing about being an artist is to be able to create, in the sense that to be able to have this talent and this blessing of being able to do something for ourselves and for the world to see. The worst thing would be when, if at all we get dejected, or if at all we get upset, the worst thing would be to get into that kind of a syndrome where we are very disillusioned. And that's the worst. This is not only for me, but for many of the artists who are struggling, because it is something that they've taken. It's not a regular road of profession they take. They take it because they're really passionate about it. They don't see success in the beginning, including me. But many of us are privileged to have an alternate way of income, but not all are. So the worst thing would be when for me, basically, or for any artist, it's for me, it is basically if I get dejected about something and I feel that I'm not moving forward, that would have been the worst thing. But other than that, I think our practice actually elevates us and gives us a sense of joy, and that itself is a mood booster. So I think these are the two things I would say would bring down an artist's mood, or and other circumstances in life also.
I think we have a question from somebody saying, what are your thoughts on digital art?
Oh, yes. I'm very, very challenged where that is concerned because I'm not savvy at all. I think my generation of artists are not. Digital art is something which has come into the forefront, and I wouldn't say that it is wrong or right because it works for some artists. And new medium can be mastered. The younger generation of artists have mastered it. And there are clients who do like digital art and who would like to project that to a great extent. But to me, I feel if you know to draw, that is what is the ultimate expression of your practice. You need to draw, you need to know more of drawing to be an artist, because all this maybe in the future it is going to be a permanent thing, but ultimately expression of a true artist is when you can really put your hand onto the canvas.
Okay, last question. Another person has asked. So, out of all the colors that we've spoken about, what is your favorite?
I have 3, 4 favorites. I can speak about my yellow orange, which I love, my reds, my blues, and my greens. But I think a lot of it settles down on a blue for me. I use these colors indiscriminately, and I use gold also, abundance. So many people have told me, you're already having rich colors, why do you use gold? But I like to use gold, and I think these are the basic colors I work around.
Okay. So
And
all
can
your
I ask
students
you,
are
Varsha,
all your
what are your
students are telling you to say hi to them. So a
Hi,
lot of
hi,
your
hi, girls.
students are
I'm
are
sorry. I saw
watching.
you all joining. Hi, hi to all of you. As much as we've always had a good I've always had a good interaction with my students all along, and it's very mood elevating when I hear from them. And wherever I go, I'm traveling right now, and I've been in touch with some of my students even here, and it's so good to get back to being with them. I do miss it and miss you all.
Okay, so I would actually like to conclude by thanking the studio for inviting us to be a part of this really nice initiative that you've taken in these rather bleak times. Something for people to just get their mind off and to talk about different varying topics. And I'm really happy that you thought of us to be a part of it. So, Mummy,
Yeah,
would you
and
like to
I,
say?
yeah, definitely, definitely, because this is a forum which one has to be on guard. But I would love to say that it has been a very nice experience, and I don't think Vasha and I have ever spoken so openly to each other
Yeah,
about our
we have
practices
not actually sat down and asked these questions to each other.
to
So
each
actually,
other.
it was very revealing even for me. I always just took it for granted. Yeah, my mom's an artist. She's always painting. Why does she? I never actually thought to sit and ask, why are you using these colors? What are your forms about? So it's really nice to have this conversation and talk
I would
about
like
it.
to, yes, and I would like to thank the studio for having brought us here today and gone through this whole. See, normally I don't talk in a structured manner, as you would have noticed, but this has been an experience, and thank you so much again, once again, and thank you, audience, and all those who have joined to listen to us. And I hope you have liked it and liked whatever we've spoken
Yeah.
about, and enjoyed this an hour with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, any questions that are asked, you can
Yeah.
ask in the comments and then we'll answer after the talk. So thank you everybody and see you.
Bye.
Bye, Ma.
Bye, Da.